Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Barry here with the Scryguys, and today we're here with another Bloomborough pre-con. We're talking about Zinnia Valley's Voice, and like I said before in my previous video, I was kind of disappointed at the lack of actual non-human creatures in the pre-con. So a lot of the decks that we've been doing this past week have just been total rebuilds. Quested a little bit more of an expensive one. He typically does do the more expensive ones. I typically like to hover around the $100. So today is going to be a $113 deck, and let's get into it. Zinnia Valley's Voice is going to be a Jeskai Commander, legendary creature, Bird Bard. Flying, Zinnia gets a X plus O, where X is the number of creatures you control with base power 1. That's kind of but then when you get to the other part, creature spells you have offs. Creature spells you cast have offspring too. Now, offspring is a new mechanic from the Bloomborough set. It says that when you may pay an additional 2 as you cast a creature spell. If you do, when that creature enters the battlefield, you get a 1/1 token copy of it. Pretty nuts, and it's a good thing this guy isn't Teamer, because, you know, 2 Nyx Bloom Ancients is not cool. And plus, the amount of doubling tokens that green allows is also ridiculous. But we're at $113, so we don't have any of the double, or like token doublers like another procession or any of the creature based token doublers, but we really kind of don't need it for this deck. This one's gonna be a bit more of a casual deck, but I could see it hanging with some high powered stuff, you know. Let's look at the creature base. So we have 28 creatures. We're starting off with small creatures. We do have a sort of a small bird theme into it, but you know, just most flying creatures are birds, so or a lot of birds are flying. All right, whatever. But we're gonna have Shrieking Drake. Now, the reason I have Shrieking Drake in here is gonna be a very budget version of like Displacer Kitten, if we need to double up on maybe some draw effects that we have with like these kind of creatures, or maybe we just want to create 1/1s, so you know, make a 1/1 for 3 mana, but then we get to do it every turn. Is gonna help us build a pretty scary Zinnia, right? We have Esior, which is gonna give our commander a ward 3, basically. Party Thrasher is a new one for Modern Horizons 3. Pretty cool. If we get 2 of them, we get to exile 2 cards from the top of our library, and then have our creatures kind of convocated. Now, we don't have too many non-creature spells in here because we have 28, but I believe we have like 35. So I think that's still a pretty healthy amount with the instant sorceries, artifacts, and enchantment mix in there. And if we get to look at 2 cards instead of 1, really great. Scrap work. So these cards are going to be sort of similar. The white creatures that we have allow us to draw. This one's going to allow us to rummage. I believe that's what it's called. Always get those mixed up. We have Watcher of the Spheres. Is going to give our flying creature spells minus 1 less to cast, which is great. And then it also gets pretty big on its own, so it doesn't, even the token doesn't stay a 1/1 forever. Chasm Skulker is great. If we can get 2 of them, we can possibly get this. We could possibly. It's cool because it, like, when it dies, it's gonna make us a whole bunch of other 1/1s, which can get our Zinnia into a scary territory of one-shotting people. If the board gets cleared and we recast Zinnia, now we have a whole bunch of squid tokens that are 1/1s, and it's a 1/1 itself, so it even buffs up our commander with that as well. Imperium Eagle gives our flying creatures +1/+1, and you know, offspring it. Now it's giving it +2/+2. Molten Gatekeeper is a nice budget version of Perforos, but you know, if you pay 5 into it, now it's basically doing Perforos light, right? And we do have a fair amount of populate abilities in here, so we could possibly get more than just 1. So it's a Perforos that you can kind of clone and make copies of. Nadir Kraken is another version of Chasm Skulker, which this one kind of pays off right away. We don't have to wait for it to die, so really great. Makes a whole bunch of 1/1s for us as well. Pramicon is here. I just threw it in here, honestly. I was like, you know, it's a nice way for us to sort of start to whittle down our opponents 1 by 1. So that's great. Rapid Augmenter, I believe, is in the actual deck for this one, but this one's cool. Whenever another creature you control base power 1 enters the battlefield, it gains haste. So it gives all of our 1/1 tokens haste, be able to swing out. And then it also gets big as itself. So whenever another creature you control enters, if it wasn't cast, put a 1/1 counter on it, and it can't be blocked. So this can get scary big by itself as well. Simian Spirit Guide, just another ramp piece for us to possibly get Zinnia out turn 2, or pay for the tax. Warden, another way for us to sort of shave down the taxes or just the extra like generic mana cost for our flying creatures. Now here's we do have a couple of evoke creatures in here, which is great because it's gonna be able to let us double up on it. So like Wispmare costs 1, pay 2 more, and then you get 2 of them. 1 even gets to stay on the field, so that's great. Curious Crafter is a way for us to draw a couple cards. We make a copy of it, pay 6 mana into it, make a copy. Now all of our tokens are drawing us 2 cards instead of 1, and it's a flyer itself, and it gives us no maximum hand size. Ishai is just in here because it's a bird. Oh yeah. Nesting Dovehawk is one of the cards that allows us to populate, right? So at the beginning of your combat, you populate whenever a creature token enters the battlefield under your control, and it gets bigger itself. So really great. If we have 2 of those out, now we're populating twice every turn. You can get out of hand, obviously, as you can see. Akeem is Akeem is great because whenever you create 1 or more tokens the first time each turn, you get a 1/1 bird with it. So it's gonna buff up our commander, and it's gonna fill up the board, because this deck is all about filling up the board and swinging out for as much as possible. And the fact that you can pay 6 mana into it and give all your creatures double strike is even more glorious. Illustrious Wonderglyph is great, makes a 1/1 every turn. Basically the white version of the druid card that's green. I forgot what it's called. But it also buffs them up as well. So Ingot Chewer, just another great evoke card for us to take care of 2 pesky artifacts that we need to take care of. Castrol the Wind Crescent is a new card from the Bloomburrow set. Great because it says whenever a bird you control deals combat damage, you get to pick one of these 3 modes. You may put a bird from your hand of the graveyard onto the battlefield with a finality counter, put a 1+1/+1 on each bird, or you get to draw a card. So hopefully we're going to be able to do at least 2 out of the 3 things that we need to do on that. Mole Drifter and Null Drifter are in here because they're 5 mana, draw 4 cards, and get a 1/1 body on top of that. So really great rates for that. Hullbreaker is just Hullbreaker. It's kind of gross. Also gives us the ability to sort of double up on some of these things as well. So say like we Mole Drifter for actual full price, and then later we need more card draw, so we just cast something cheap, Hullbreaker it back to our hand. You guys have already seen this whole situation. Junk Winder can get super nasty, especially with all the populated stuff in here. We can pretty much lock down our opponent's boards with just Junk Winder and the ability to make all these tokens. I mean, pair that up with Illustrious Wonderglyph, and then you're kind of just gonna whittle everyone down slowly but surely. And then we have Soul Migration, evoke it, pay 4 mana and into 2, so now you get 5 1/1 bodies onto the board. Really great. And then it's really relevant because the 4 of those bodies are going to be bird tokens, which again will synergize with our bird and flying synergies in here. So we only have 8 sorceries. We have Blasphemous Act, Faithless Looting, Expressive Iteration, Sabine's Reclamation, Winged Words, because most of our deck is flying, so it's really just going to cost 2 mana. Overpowering Attack is, I think, a underrated extra combat card, especially for this one, because our commander is going to get pretty big pretty fast, and so we can pay 3 to get an extra turn and possibly knock somebody out with commander damage. Alrund's Epiphany, extra turn card, and it makes us 2 birds. Really good. Our Reckoning, great. If we need to wipe the board and maybe it's just our commander that's out and then a whole bunch of our tokens, then we can kind of have enough mana to just recast our commander and still wipe the board and have our tokens still left intact. See, let's look at our instance. Pretty basic. This surprisingly is only like $3, which is kind of crazy to me. So it's great for us to be able to Angel's Grace ourselves and have our permanents gain hexproof and indestructible. Perplexing Test is a nice budget version of this is Cyclonic Rift. And then most of it, you will be creating so many. You'll create so many tokens with this deck that this might be better than Cyc Rift. No, sorry, nothing's better than Cyc Rift, but still, it's a really good imitation. Let's look at our artifacts. So we have Skull Clamp, which is probably the best card draw in all of Commander. And then we have Biden of Thassa. We have a pretty basic package of mana rocks. We have Idol of Oblivion for another way for us to draw some more cards. And then Biden of Thassa is great. I love Biden of Thassa just because you can kind of clear the way. You might take some damage, whatever, but then you'll be able to give that damage back, hopefully in a more final way. Just get rid of those enemies, right? And then we have Enchantments, we have Impact Tremors. We're going to be creating a lot of tokens. Jeskai Ascendancy, which is great because it's going to be able to buff up our creatures on the board. We're going to have a bunch of 1/1s, and hopefully maybe by the turn by the time it gets to combat, maybe there are 4/4s or 5/5s. So Muster the Departed, which is from Modern Horizons 3, is great. It makes a spirit with flying, but then it has Morbid at the beginning of your end step. If a creature died this turn, you can populate. So if you have enough tokens out there, especially the tokens that are giving us or generating us value, you can kind of send some creatures out to die so we can go ahead and populate. Reconnaissance Mission is just a version of Binding Thassa with cycling. Murmuration is from, I believe, this commander deck as well. Birds you control get +1/+1 have vigilance. Great. And at the beginning of your end step, for each spell you cast this turn, create a 1/2 bird named Stormcrow. This is so cool. So the way that I'm reading this is that you get to make a 1/2 bird for each spell. So you can possibly refill up the board with just with this guy. So crazy. Song of the World Soul, great. Whenever you cast a spell, populate, pretty straightforward. And City on Fire, which is a nice way for us to really try to close out the game. So but yeah, this is gonna be the deck. Here's the mana base. As you can see, nothing too expensive, and I think this is a deck that's gonna be fun at any price point. Especially once you're able to start adding like the mana doublers, like the Ojur, Anointed Procession, Mondrak, and all this stuff. It can get even more crazy for you guys. So let me know what you guys think. Please like, comment, subscribe. We're so close to 500, and we want to be able to give you guys something at 500. So hopefully we get there soon. And we always appreciate you guys for joining us. And yeah, have a good one.